journaling family, my Patreon. Um, I want to kind of connect a bit about how these sessions have been feeling for me, these writing sessions. I'm trying to kind of find my way through that feels like, I think like my priority with these writing sessions, I'm realizing is just like co-regulation and then like writing together. But I'm curious if that's helpful for you or if you're seeking or wanting some other kind of connection that feels more goal oriented. A lot of what I do with my pages is specifically to not be goal oriented. And so but I also want to kind of like honor the experience of like what your needs are. Um, kind of move from a place of like navigating where we're each at or where we're all at. I think that that's what creates community, and I'd like to have like a sense of community with the journaling that I'm doing as opposed to just inviting you into my practice, which has sort of been, I think, what I've been doing up until now. Maybe or maybe not, I don't know. What is your experience? I'm so curious. I definitely, as far as like me showing up in Patreon, but also me showing up online, I've been moving through just a lot of resistance as well as a lot of like curiosity, a lot of really nourishing good feelings as well. And whenever I feel like a sense of like nourishment and goodness, I always worry, question, wonder if how I'm showing up or how I'm sharing is actually helpful to others. Um, and I think in large part, this is sort of like a facet of like capitalism, right? Where you have to be of value in order to have money, in order to have some sort of fiscal exchange, in order to have value to what it is you're bringing to the table. So there's part of that that is very much like clear in capitalism. And I think like what's beautiful, and also I have questions around for Patreon and like what Patreon is that like in some ways, Patreon is like providing patronage for the work I do and like the way I like to show up like as an individual artist and how I move forward. Yet at the same time, it also builds kind of like a community platform and a way to speak with you around like what's working for you, what do you want more of, what maybe doesn't suit your needs, that either is an off-putting experience or something that's okay that it doesn't meet your needs, but it just doesn't meet your needs, and maybe I don't need to put my time or effort into certain ways of showing up that maybe I think would be helpful that maybe aren't. I think that there's a fine line for me between like not people pleasing and being collaborative. And I don't know if you feel that way too, but I think that space between like, am I just being self-serving, self-seeking, and only thinking of myself? And like, if that's what I'm going to do, like, how do I clarify that and let people know that's what I'm doing and move from there from a place of integrity? And I feel my like stomach tighten up when I say that. And I'm like, okay, so there's some anger or resistance or frustration in that gets me, whether that's like I don't want to do that, or I've that's been done to me before and it didn't feel good, or that I actually do want to do that but I feel like I'm not allowed to, which I actually have curiosity as if that's really truly what this is, and I kind of think it is. um so I'd love to like enter a writing space, maybe this is more the direction things could head or would head or may head, which is like I talked to you about what I'm working on and working through, and then we write together around that theme, and let it be more like a thematic writing session after I talk to you a bit and share with you what I'm going through. So like that self-serving part of myself that I really want this to be beneficial to me and it be something that I'm participating in like an active way, feels like it's being satiated, but that I'm also inviting like a community participation in something that like isn't about Okay, so there's community, but then there's individual journeys, like artist journeys, right? So I want to kind of spread the space between how is this a community? So we are all gathering together, we're all participating in something around a similar theme, right? Which is the writing of our pages. Yet we're also on our individual journeys. So what you experience while you're writing is going to be different than what I experience while I'm writing. Yet I also want to be kind of self-serving, self-seeking, self-centered, set it in the center of myself, and like being able to communicate with you from there. So I'm wondering if it starts with self and I really check in with like where I'm at, how I'm doing, what's going on. And then we look into the experience of like maybe, I don't know if community comes next or like personal artist journey comes next, but let's try community today. And then we can keep, the more safe I start to feel with you, the more I start to have these conversations with you, I think the more we'll be able to find what works. And maybe this will be a continued evolving kind of practice that we continue to find new ways of showing up with one another. I would love to have your feedback if that's something you're comfortable sharing or giving, because I do want this to be a place where we are in connection and conversation around how the platform is being used. And what our writing sessions mean to each of us, what they mean to you, and how I can bring myself into it from a place where I still feel like I'm at the center of myself and not like bypassing who I am or my needs in order to be here, but also not overtaking the experience with like it's only of service to me and I don't care whether or not it's of service to you, because I like, I would like for this to be a beneficial, flourishing, nourishing space for others. But I also am very clear in my own kind of patterning where it's like I am still finding how those exist at the same time. Like, how can I stay at the center of like the seat of my own soul and then be in connection with others in a way that feels interrelational, supportive, encouraging, but practical, and like willing to say where we're at, when it's different, when it's not working, when it is working, all of that kind of stuff. So thanks for joining me. That's where I'm at today. And since we're on our own individual journeys, why don't we come back to our own sense of artistry, since we've talked about community. And so we went me, this is where I'm at, and then community, how could this serve us together in this specific Patreon space? But then now let's go on our like little artist journeys, which are potentially very different and very separate, but from the framework and the theme and the experience of desiring community, and kind of go from there. Today, instead of the 3 pages, stream of consciousness, I already did mine. Maybe you did too. I don't know. But I'm wondering, because I'm looking for like, how does this work? How can we work together? The stream of consciousness writing usually takes about 20 minutes. And I want to be mindful of our time together and like spending that in a way that feels like it's, at least for today, for this session, unless I get other feedback from you guys, but like a way where it feels like we are touching base, checking in, going on a journey and experience, and then kind of wrapping up in whatever smooth way or maybe longer way that might feel good. And we'll find that too, I think. And it will probably happen through exploring different ways of being, becoming, and it's strange to be pre-recording this, so I'm just assuming kind of what kind of relationship I might have with you, as opposed to really having you face to face, one-on-one, where I can just check in with you and then see how it goes. Like I'm going through this whole experience and then waiting and then seeing what you say, and know that, like, as afraid as I am of feedback sometimes, I also really do welcome it when it's constructive and productive and encouraging and comes from a supportive space. I've just, as a recovering performing artist, I've also had a lot of different kinds of feedback that have not been nourishing or nurturing, so I get like skittish. Maybe you do too. I think a lot of us have received feedback that has been painful in the heart and has felt like we become almost unsafe with ourselves or one another when we receive feedback sometimes, depending on whether it's the way the person has given it or whether it's just we have our own fears and insecurities that are there, or a combo platter of both, right? Usually it's a combo platter, but not always. Okay, so theme. What did I say? Let's backtrack. I said that I am curious about how to bridge the space between like staying at the center of myself and then also being in community, working towards some sort of aligned experience of being with one another, whether that's a goal or whether that is just a way of being, both of which can be goals of sorts. And I think while the tagline that I've been using for Pages in Process is somatic attunement and stream of consciousness writing for inner wisdom and outer healing, yet I also recognize that attuning to the body and then going stream of consciousness can sometimes bring up a lot of like challenging experiences that have been held in the body. And so bringing those up and out, if we're stream of consciousness writing there, it may or may not feel beneficial in the moment for as far as like, is this really inner wisdom? Will this really provide outer healing? I find that at least getting to know those parts, they do move you that way, though not necessarily in one writing session. It might be over the course of a long period of time. And if you've been doing journaling practices for your own healing process for a long period of time, you may be very aware of that already. I found for me that when I just kind of like look at the good things or the bright side of stuff, like I might be able to bring myself up out of some darkness that I've had. I've also found that when I feel really manic or just like hyper aroused as opposed to hypo aroused, sometimes I need to go to the undersurface and the under thing of things of like, well, why am I pushing? What's going on there? How is that working? And I can find that inside of my body. So the theme of how do I stay at the center of myself while being interrelational with others in a healthy way? That's going to be our theme. If you feel like sharing it, if you don't, that's fine. You can go on your own journey wherever that leads you, but that's the prompt. Feel free to choose the prompt if that feels good to you. And then let's go ahead and tune into our body around that first, and then we'll do just a stream of consciousness right around it for about 7 minutes and see what comes up from there. We'll be on really different journeys. So what I go through and what you go through are going to be different. And I'm not sure if I should, could, would want to read my 7 minutes of writing to you, maybe. And then have you share some of yours if you want to. Or if that would feel like it takes you out of your space and what you learn. So whichever one I choose today, if you feel comfortable and safe, providing me feedback of if it worked for you or if you would have preferred another, if you're open to trying both or maybe even flipping back and forth between them, that would be helpful for me just as I continue to build like, how do I show up here? How, how do we work together? What feels best for these writing sessions? Can we be collaborative around how I'm facilitating them? Okay, so we have our theme and let's go ahead and do a little somatic attunement. So tuning into our bodies around that theme, whatever comes up in that theme, I'm going to do a little guided meditation into our pages. So go ahead and take a deep breath in and exhale. Close your eyes if you want to, or have a soft gaze if that feels better. And deep breath in. But just kind of going back and down into your body and exhale. And noticing if any nervousness or lightness or heaviness or any sort of sensations, whatever they might be, are kind of arising or presenting themselves. And again, deep breath in. And exhale. And whatever arises, just be with that. Just go with that, whatever that means. Maybe there's colors or images, memories, words, thoughts, sensations. And notice what is the overall essence of sort of your experience right now? If you kind of took like an overall temperature of it, what's like 1 to 3 words about that essence that you're in? You can write them down, or you can speak them, or you can have them in your mind's eye. And then noticing, is there a particular area or areas that you're aware of in your own body? Either that feel really good or need some attention, maybe you feel a certain sort of spaciousness in an area, or a certain sort of constriction or contraction or achiness somewhere, a weight or a lightness, openness or a closing. And wherever that is, wherever your attention is focused, go ahead and, if it feels right to you, place a hand there and just kind of breathe and connect. See if your hand can be a safe space for that part of your body. If your hand doesn't feel like a safe space, feel free to remove it and see if it feels better to have more spaciousness in relationship to that space of your body. And we're going to transition a bit into, because you may be experiencing a lot of different things, images, colors, visions, etc. And we're going to begin to allow that to come into word form. And go ahead and just notice wherever your body, whatever sensation, whatever journey you're experiencing you're at, if that place, that space, that feeling had a voice, what would it say? And let's go ahead and take that. You can breathe into that and meditate with that with me through the 7 minutes if you don't want to write, or if it feels right to you, feel free to stream of consciousness right onto your page, or even just speak into space and maybe voice memo it if you want a record, or just let it fly and go. And we'll go for 7 minutes. Begin. Okay. And finish on up. Let's go ahead and integrate since we've both been on very different journeys. Your 7 pages or 7 minutes of pages are going to be very different than mine. Let's go ahead and do just like kind of a general integration. So if you feel called to put your hands on your body, if a part of your body was speaking, or it feels like you're just really aware of it, go ahead and take a deep breath into that area, into your hands. Filling the space, and exhale, releasing anything you don't need, don't want. And again, deep full breath in, breathing in for clarity, maybe even sweeping out some of the area like a vacuum, and then blow it on out. One more inhale. And exhale, release. And let's just do a little somatic integration. So somatic attunement is where we began. Let's just do a little integration process. So we're just going to stretch our body to one side. That feels good. And stretch our body to the other side. Maybe 2 hands up. A little twist. And the other side. And maybe give your head a stretch if you don't have any neck problems that inhibit that. But be with your body and tend to its needs however you need it. Your stretches can be different than mine. You can follow along if you want. You could be doing something very different. That's okay too. And rest, restore. Okay, so this is going to be the end of our writing session. And if you'd like to stay, I'm going to do a little pause in the video. Go ahead and shift gears a little bit, maybe like 30 seconds. I'm going to go get some tea. If you would like to do the same, if you don't already have some, go for it. But we'll just take a couple seconds. I'm going to take 30 seconds for me, but perhaps in the video, I'll shorten it down. Getting all tongue-tied, trying something new. If this was all that felt good, if this felt good and you want to go about your day, go ahead and do that now. And I'll see you next time for a writing session. If you would like to hang on for a little bit and join me in a moment, I'm going to be reading my 7 minutes of pages and processing those a little bit with you. So whether I see you in a moment or I see you next week or whenever you return, thank you for joining with me. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me in this practice. It means a lot to be able to develop what might feel right, to be able to journal within a sense of community. Feels good and nourishing to me. And hopefully it does to you as well. And if there's aspects that really work for you, I'd love to know what they are. If there's something you would like more of to feel more supported, I would love to hear what that might be as well, to see if that's something I can provide or step into. And if there's any elements that are particularly not working for you, and you think it's something that might still align with my goals and intention for being here in the practice, I would love to hear what that is, to see if there's a way I could maybe redirect. So I'll see you in a moment if you're going to stay, and otherwise enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Okay, I'm back. I've got my tea, my little moon cup. If you can see what it says, I think it's glaring. It says, "Lovely as the moon, not flawless perhaps, but perfect." And it's a quote from the book, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And the character's name is Kvothe, Kvothe. It's one of my favorite fantasy novels. I think it's right here. Yeah, Name of the Wind. Anyways, that was a little sidetrack, side note. So I'm going to read to you my 7 minutes in that writing session. My experience of it before I read it was that I started out like cognizant. My mind was aware of what I was writing. And then I started to like not be aware of what I was writing. And my hand just kind of kept going. And then I noticed that I wasn't aware of what I was writing. So I started to be aware of it again, and then I kind of would dissociate. So I was in and out of being dissociated from my writing process, but it was a stream and it was pretty continual and fluid for wherever my consciousness was coming from at any given moment. Your experience may be completely different than mine, and that is valid, viable, wonderful, and your experience, and I honor that. Um, and just as an invitation to my world, because part of this is like Marissa's pages and process, it's inviting you into a little bit of like how I process and how my pages are experienced and what that's like for me. So we'll see. Let me know if you like having this little exercise, which is, I guess, going to be closer to what it is I post in general online, where I process and then I read my pages and then I integrate and process some more. So I would love to hear if having this little tail end is helpful for you, if this is valuable to you, and if you enjoyed the way in which I structured and framed the writing session today. Here we go, 7 minutes writing session. The space between me and others. How do I bridge the space between where I am at and how I choose to move forward in community? The soft sharing, the space between feels really important, like honoring, identifying the space between your experience and my experience. That feels like key to me, which is hopefully what it feels like I've been attempting to do in this particular practice today. I wish to host a way forward that speaks of raw data and a good form forward. So this is where I was like dissociated. I don't really know what I mean by that. I wish to host, like being a host or hosting through my sense of self, a way forward that speaks. So what I'm saying of raw data and good form forward, raw data and good form. So like what's present, like what's just present, and like how do we adjust our form to be able to accommodate what's present without a judgment of it, just raw data. And then how do we adjust form in order to present it forward? That feels like what I'm doing today. Oh, cool. The surrounding patterns of pleasant offerings show and share motion home. The surrounding patterns. So where are my patterns? Where are my rituals? Where are my practices of pleasant offerings? So that feels clear to me that the offerings I want to share, I am finding more and more like I want like things to feel pleasant. I want things to feel good. I want them to feel inviting, safe, regulated, as opposed to the highs and lows that sometimes the ways in which I would share either my creative work, my creative voice would kind of be, they roller coaster a bit. And I'm just really tired. So that the surrounding patterns of pleasant offerings show and share motion home. When I say home, I think of home in my actual home in my body, home in myself. The right passage clears itself. So when things are aligned, when I'm headed in the right direction, when I have that raw data and like clear form and we're going forward, the way forward sort of opens. I don't feel so like bumping up against something or things don't go wrong continually. I've noticed that as a pattern in my life in general, like when you're in your creative flow, things kind of like open up and move forward for you. You know you are there when you can trust your own heart in the process and practice of it all. The sure-footed guidance of the mind with clarity wants to come through. And I remember when I said that, because like, okay, so let's process this. So the right passage clears itself. You know you are there in the right passage when you can trust your own heart in the process and practice of it all. That I feel totally clear and true. I have been having, which this next sentence talks about, it's like my mind goes into old patterns of sort of like internalized abusive and unhealthy ways of being that have just been either modeled for me or practiced by me on myself or in relationship to what I'm afraid of outside of myself. Um, and it says the sure-footed guidance of the mind with clarity, it wants to come through. And in that moment, gosh, wouldn't that be great? I don't know, maybe you're there, maybe you're not. But for me, my mind has been the experience that I've been really frustrated with for this last period of time. I've been really rehabbing for a long time my relationship with my body and finding that. And I think that for the most part, I've learned how to navigate, like give my body rest when it's asking for it, not push it too hard when it's like, hey, slow down. I've been learning to listen to my body more and more, but my mind there's been a lot of like shifting and repatterning of my actual like neurons that fire and like go into sort of like a triggered experience and get scared, right? So this is saying that my mind, the clarity of mind and like a sure-footed experience with my mind, all of that, it wants to come through. And like, I just kind of want to breathe that in. And if that's you too, and you need that too, like I invite you to put your hand on your heart right now and just breathe in that possibility with me. Inhale. Exhale. Again, deep inhale. And exhale. Ooh, thanks. That's great. Okay. Continuing, we have done a lot of good work with how we are showing up to the event of it all. You choose, you get to choose. Oh, you show up to an event and you get to choose how you engage or disengage or find your way through or choose to release and find a different path. See what's present and go with that. So that's what I'm trying to do here today is just see what's present in me in this experience and then have the bravery, the willingness, the wantingness to be vulnerable enough to ask you, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you feel? Is this working for you? Is this not working for you? And that's coming, in order for me to do that from a place where I'm not like totally terrified or like it's not coming out reactively and also like really guarded and not actually wanting feedback, like I have to be so in my own sense of like, okay, I am figuring out for myself what is and isn't working, so I can trust that the person that I'm in connection with, you in this moment, is willing, wanting, able to at least practice returning to a place of like, okay, where am I in this experience? Is this working for me? Is this not working for me? What would I need more of? Is there something, some sort of boundary that is or isn't being crossed? I try really hard not to cross boundaries. So if I do, please do let me know. But I think I do pretty good of that, unless it's like a topic or something that that is taboo that I'm like, I have to talk about this stuff or I'm uncomfortable, and people can set their boundaries and walk away if that's the case for them. Absolutely. But also sometimes there are certain ways in which I come into connection that I need certain access points around that connection in order for me to feel like the connection is viable for my sense of safety, community, belonging, all of that. Maybe you recognize the same in yourself. Okay, where are we? Ha, ha, ha. It's all okay. You choose, you get to choose. See what's present, go with that. Aligned action speaks volumes and sets into motion something divine. You can call comfort home and be with and divine. When I say divine, I just think like clear open space, something makes sense. It's like a core alignment to self or truth or like willingness to be in the presence of everything and nothing. And that's sort of my experience of that. You can call comfort home and be with the nature of your own most happy, healthy, enlivened aspects. I can call comfort home. So like that's like a willingness to be participatory for me in my own life of like, if I want comfort, I can call it home to myself. I can say, what's going to help me feel more comfortable right here, right now, in this moment. Like yesterday, my nervous system was totally dysregulated. I had been recovering from a lot of fatigue the last couple of days because of I had some pragmatic family uh, sort of experiences that were in some ways really lovely and in other ways were taxing on sort of my ability to stay grounded, stay present, not get triggered, um, set boundaries over and over and over again when they're not being heard or listened to or respected, which is hard, and then leave the room when they're not being honored. And I have had enough of reinstating the boundary. Sometimes you have to remove yourself. So I've been recovering from that experience, and I was calling my comfort home. I was like, okay, what are the things that help me? And you may have very different things than this that help you. But for me, it's like I go into hypoarousal pretty bad where I'm like, oh, shut down, depressed, sad. And it does not work for me to like try to pull myself out of that and push forward. I tend to like utilize unhealthy methods when I do that are more that make me feel like I'm not worthy, or that like there's something wrong with me, or that I should be different, and so that's not actually healthy. So I choose not to do that unless I can do it without those things attached, which is I'm learning still. But what I can do is lay on the floor, lay on the ground, hold a pillow into my chest, into my heart, so that like I feel safe with it. Like it's like I feel like connected and contained. That helps me to feel connected and contained. I like to play like on my TV, like with YouTube. I just look up like ambient sounds, or like right now it's fall weather themes that are going on. So like pictures of like pumpkins and like leaves falling with ambient fire in the background or whatever. That calms my nerves. If I'm still having a hard time, sometimes things that helps with sounds and with sight, the feeling, right? But I might still need some sort of smell to ground me into the present moment of feeling safe, of feeling comfort. So I have a candle, scented candle I can light. I have different sprays or oils that I can put on, and that helps me as well stay in the body, tuning to my body, somatic attunement, right? So, okay, I had said, you can call comfort home, which I did, and I'm so proud of myself, and be with the nature of your most happy, healthy, and enlivened aspects. So when I find things that help me feel safe, and then help me that also feel that they are healthy and they can inspire coziness. My coziness tends to be kind of a gateway towards happiness, and happiness allows me to then be willing, wanting, able to feel like, oh, maybe I have the perspective, the safety to be a little more curious or playful or expansive or breathable. And so that allows me to do it that way without pushing myself forward into something I think I should be doing. It is okay to feel your sensitivities. They will guide you through safely when you honor and respect the wisdom that they hold. So those sensitivities of mine, of bodies in general, I've found from my own personal practice, but also from a lot of like somatic therapy philosophies that I align to in the work that I do. Not a therapist, but I do value finding nourishment from a lot of the different perspectives that different types of therapy might be able to offer. Be a part of your own soul's expression and choose to show up in new ways. You get to prove yourself from a state of being in a clear and direct way. And I know you hear it like prove yourself. That sounds like it can sound like you have to prove yourself, but it's more like, no, I get to like prove that I am here, I'm present, I'm direct, I'm clear. And like, let's show the proof of that. Show your work. Like I used to love math. Like show your work and like show a proof of your work. There's the proof of it all. Anyways, that's me for today. I think this format might be structurally patterned in a kind of a good way. If that feels right to you, let me know. Because I would like to kind of find something that's at least mostly sustainably like ritualized. And then of course we can adjust and make things malleable, but that at least there's an idea, clarity of like what tends to work as far as structure and format. So for me today, that was entering from here's where I'm at, then going into where's the community at, and then going into let's take our separate journeys, coming back into integration, releasing you if you want to be released, or setting you on a transition period before coming back into something different than your journey, but my journey, and bearing witness to what that was like for me, and sharing in my pages and process of it all. If you would like to share your pages and process of it all, know that comments and direct messages are totally welcome, wanted, appreciated, loved. And if you are a kind of sharer and writer that feels called to post your own experience of some form or iteration of your writings or your readings of your writings online and would like to tag pages and process, I'd love to give you some love and just be of a support for you there. And thank you so much for your time, your heart, your witness, and your willingness to sit down and be with your body and write through whatever was coming up for you. Because that really, truly, I feel and I have experienced can be such a great place to find, source, suss out in a non-pressurized way, a little bit more of self-knowledge, a little bit more of like where you're at, and then being able to take that and transmute that into like clarity. Clarity, when you can see that, can become a sense of choice, and knowing you have choice within a hubbub of an experience that can cultivate wisdom. And when we move in our world through a place of choosing to align to that, I think that that's where the outer healing comes into play for pages and process. So I love you, sending you lots of warm hugs, and thank you for being a part of my cozy little experience. Bye-bye.